All right, we're holding daf samach vav amud aleph. The line starts with kidemi ikara. Omer Rabba. Okay, Omer Rabba. Rabba said, Shine kaina. We had this yesterday. We're talking about a change in a stolen item. So if somebody steals an item, so now there's a shine, there's a change in a stolen item, causes the thief now to kaina, to acquire it, and now he has to pay for what he stole. In other words, he can't give back the item. Somebody steals something. Let's say, Marcus' example yesterday we learned. Let's say you stole, a younger animal, and the animal now changes to become an older animal. Let's say a young goat, and it becomes what do they say, like a bull, like a younger version of a bull, and then it becomes a bull. So the ganav stole it. In the other shos now became a shine. There's a change, so he can't just give back what he stole. But rather, he has to, now he's kind of the chayfetz, so he has to pay for what he stole. That's what Rabbi said. Shinei kaina. So, a change in the stolen item causes the thief to acquire it is ksiva. It's written in the Torah, and also utanena, and we learned it in the Mishnah as well. And the Gemara explains, kesiva. It's written in the Torah. Why? As the Torah says, it says, if a person steals, then it shall be he has sinned, and he has to give back the item that he stole. Now, the Bryce asks, Asher Gozal. What is the meaning? He says that he robbed. Im Ke'esha Gozal, the pasuk is teaching us that if the item is the same as when he stole it, so he has to return that stolen item. V'im lav, but if it's not the same, then Domim Ba'alma, boy the Shalomi, he's required to pay only money while the stolen item remains in his keep. So, V'heishav Asher Gozal. Obviously, he has to. Why does it say Asher Gozal? The fact that it says Asher Gozal teaches us that if what he stole, it's the same thing that he stole, then Heishiv, return it. But if not, then he has to pay the money. So now I see a raya that Shinei is kaina. Now, I also have this in the Mishnah. Teneda, but then this also in the Mishnah. It was taught, this is when happens a little bit later. The Mishnah says, Hagoiz le'itzem basol kelim. That is a Rambam now. One who robs another of wood, let's say a person steals wood, and now he fashions it into kelim. Semer basol begonim, or a person robs wool and fashions it into garment. So Allah is mishalim kishas hakzeli. He pays the robber, the victim according to the value of the goods at the time of the robbery, and he keeps the material for himself. That's the word. So he has to pay shas gzela. Now, that's a Mishnah. Inami, another Mishnah can bring a raya to this principle of shinei. Now, why does he keep it? Because he was mishane what he stole. It was 8 cent, he made it into kelim now. It used to be tzemer, he made it to begadim. Now, another Mishnah full, the Mishnah says, the work is that it's not about downgrading, upgrading it. The fact is, once he was mishana what he stole, it becomes his chayfetz, saying like he stole the chayfetz and he has to pay the value. Okay, inami, another Mishnah can bring a raya. If one did not manage to give the first of the wool of the sheep to a kohen, right? This is he gives now reshus hagez. So if he did not give the first of the wool of the sheep to a kohen until after he died, so Allah he's potter from giving the kain. So what do we see from here? The Mishnah is mashma that the item, since the other item has undergone a change, it can no longer be considered as it had been before. Because is potter. Why? So I see from this pasuk, I see from these two Mishnahs, that Shini is kaina. Okay.
What happens at potter? Potter for what? You don't give any.
He doesn't. This does not have to be given to the kain.
This is that what's the Gil?
I don't know the full din one.
I thought you know the din, because what do you think? Other you give money that shows you that Yeko.
As the Rashi says, "Mereshus hagez the kniya b'shinei v'afilu damim loy b'shalom." In kain yachal last minute, but then yachal lemer la'achadena v'ken shetzbom mishachat b'zachal. But okay. Now, Rabbi continues to discuss the ways in which a ganiv acquires ownership of a stolen item. Yush. Now, with regard to the owner's despair over ever recovering the stolen item, right? Let's say the guy was miyayish. He gave up. Amar Rabbanan the nikni. The Chum say this too causes the thief to acquire the stolen item. Right? So again, if the owner was miyayish over ever recovering the stolen item, also the thief acquires the stolen item. However, we do not know if this is D'Rabbanan or D'Oraisa. Now, the Rabbi is going to explain the two possibilities you just mentioned. Either D'Oraisa, if it applies D'Oraisa, so immediately they have a Meitzah Aveda. So this is like with regard to somebody who finds a lost object. Meitzah Aveda, in a case where, with regards to one who finds a lost item, now, in the case with regard to one who finds a lost item, that once the owner of the item is miyayish of recovering it before the item came into the finder's possession, konilei, the finder acquires it and may keep it for himself. So what happened over here? A person finds a lost item that once the owner of the item was miyayish of recovering it before the item came into the finder's possession, so the finder acquires and may keep it for himself. Hainami, so here also, Kivan the miyayish mara, once the owner of the item despairs of recovering it, Kanile, the ganav acquires it for himself, and he doesn't need to return it. Al-Makani. So what do we see from here? That Yush causes the thief to acquire the stolen item. Just like Meitzi Aveda. Because what happens? By Meitzi Aveda, somebody who gives up on it, who finds a lost object, once the owner is miyayish, even before he acquires it, he can take it. So here also, once it's miyayish, the can be kainet. So we see that he could acquire. Or perhaps or the case of the stolen item is not comparable to the case of a lost item. Because in regards to the lost item that the owner was miyayish, this enables the finder to acquire the item because the item came into possession in the permitted manner. But in the case of the ganav, since it came into his possession in an isidik manner, so therefore it cannot be derived from the case of the Aveda. So if so, the halacha that Yush is kaina must be only midrabbanan. Now, why would the Chachamim institute this? The Amar Rabbanan nikni. Chachamim say that a thief should acquire the stolen item in this manner. Why? Due to the takana instituted to encourage ganavim to do tshuva and repay their victims. The Chacham instituted that they not need to return the stolen item after the owner was miyayish. Rather, they can reimburse the owner for the monetary value of the item. And that's why the Chacham made this takana. Now, but Rabbi Yosef says, no, Yush ain't a kena. Yush, when somebody is miyayish, the guy's not kena. The thief is not kena. But feel midrabbanan, even midrabbanan. Okay, Rav Yosef got Abba. So now, Rav Yosef asked Rabba Shaila, a person robbed another chametz. And it was robber of a Pesach, which we know that deriving benefit was also. So the robber. Now the robber may nonetheless return the worthless bread to the owner and say to him, "This is what is yours before you," and he doesn't have to pay. He's not chayav to pay compensation. Now, so what does he say from here? So basically it says like this. In this case, once the time of the Isser of Chametz bread arrives, the owner certainly is miyayish of recovering the now worthless bread. If it enters in your mind that Yush causes the robber to acquire, so why could the robber say, why could the robber say that this is what is yours before you? You should be required to pay the owner the full-fledged money rather than return the worthless item. As the bread now, you're saying now that Yush is kainer. So for sure, the guy who owned the chametz, who was stolen from, for sure, he's miyayish guy, gives up. So how could the robber now say, if the guy was for sure miyayish? Elamai Yush is not kainer. So Amar Lei, Rabbi says to him in response, when do I say that the ganav acquires a stolen item upon the Yush? That is Zemisiyash V'Zeretz Liglis. where this owner is miyayish and the thief wants to acquire the item. And in this case, zem siyayish was it's lignis. The one who owns the chametz now wants to be miyayish, but the guy doesn't want to acquire it. Okay. Eso ba'ile rabbo, ba'ya as to shayla to rabbo from a brayse. Pasuk says, korbanoi. Pasuk says that his offering, it was a burnt offering. Now his offering, but not animal stolen from another. So, what are the circumstances of the case referred to by the brayse? If we say it's dealing with a stolen animal, that the robber was makdish and brought it before the owner was despaired, lamali kra. Why don't you have a pasuk to tell me that? Pshita, it's obvious that this is disqualified. One cannot be makdish an animal that doesn't belong to him. Elamai must be the achiyush. It must be that we're talking about after the owner was miyayish. And the brayse teaches that the animal cannot be makdish by the thief. Shmami no, usually konos, from here we see a yush does not acquire. As if it belongs to him, he'd be able to be makdish and bringing us a carbon. Rabbi says to Abaye, and according to your reasoning, then all the time we learned in a brayse. Now it's written with regard to a zav, which is a man who experiences discharge. It says whoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be pure in the evening. Smashma of the bedding on which the zav lies can become tar and it's going to become tamei and impart to toma only if mishkavai, if it's his bedding. But not if it's stolen bedding. So now the Gemara says this. What are the circumstances of the case of the brayse? If we see that he robbed another of wool and he made it into bedding, is there anyone who says that a physical change that results from an action performed to a stolen item does not cause the thief to acquire it? You must say the gozal mishkav the chavri. You must say a case which the zav robbed another of the bedding. Hachanami, the gozal carbon, the chavri. Here also a person robbed another of the carbon that already was makdish.
Knowing that it goes for water, just no other food.
So the reason this animal is not mechaper for the thief is that a hektish cannot be stolen and become the thief's property, as it belongs to the base of Migdash.
I thought just he shouldn't be.
So it's a special din. It's a special din by. In other words, he's bringing an ayah that usually kones. He says, according to you, okay, what about mishkone v'leya gazel? Okay, so Esav Abayla to Esav, Abaya asks a shaila to Esav from Mishnah. Edish balabayis with regards to hides belonging to a balabayis. So machshava mitamosim. One's thought now makes it susceptible for tumor. Now hides and leather are susceptible to tumor only if they are in a finished state. If, let's say, a private individual uses a piece of hide or leather for certain purposes, let's say as a cot or a table top, and decides that this will be its fixed purpose, it's considered to have finished product, and now it's hukshav the mekabel tumah. So that's the Haydish balabayis machshavan metamon. Machshava helps. Now, v'shal abdon with regard to the hides belonging to a leather worker, ein machshavan metamon. Thoughts does not render them susceptible for tumah. Since this individual sells leather to others, when he uses a piece of leather for household purpose and decides that this will be its fixed purpose, this is not considered a finished state, as he's likely to change his mind and sell the leather to one who will process it further and put it in a different state.
A person who has fabric.
So
again, if it's Eish Balabayis, we say Machshava helps. If it's Shal Abdon, even if, let's say, he now is using it for a different purpose, he can change it in a moment.
But something we're not thinking about that book. Another person made a jacket, and then he made a tie, and then made a handkerchief, and then made a button.
Okay, so now the Mishnah continues. Shel Ganav, if the hides are those of a thief, if it's who has stolen them from another, so Machshava Metamen, the Ganav's thought renders them susceptible for Tumah. Shel Gazlan, but if they are of a robber, in Machshava Metamen, Machshava does not help. Now, what's the difference? The difference is that unlike the case of a Ganav who steals items quietly, the robber who takes them openly, it's known to the owner. And the owner now has hope of finding the robber and getting them back. So he does not miyayish over recovering his property. Mashenkin Aganet is miyayish. Now, Shimon says, Chiluvat Dvarim. He says, you have to reverse the matters. Shal gazla machshava metaman. He says this: the robber, the thought renders them. Shal gazla machshava metaman. Shal ganav ein machshava metaman. But in regards to a ganav ein machshava metaman. Why the vishnu buy them? Because the owner does not the spirit of recovering them, and the ganav is not required the hide. And Shimon's reasoning is that a robber who seizes items brazenly is more difficult criminal to take a brag and bring. Yeah. Now, so what do we see from here? Now, although these two Tanoim, other Mishnah disagree as to which situation involves Yiyush of recovering, whether it's a Ganav or Gazlan, Shramina, Yiyush Kana. We see from here that Yiyush, the spear of the owner, causes a thief or robber to acquire an item. Or otherwise, the Machshava thought the hide would have no effect on the status with regards to the Tumah. So Amalei, so Yosef said to Abaya, the case where the thief or the robber trimmed the leather by cutting it. Although trimming a piece of leather is not sufficient change to constitute an act of kinyan, it's effective in regards to Yush. So Rabbi kind of asked to Shaila, but it's not the case that they thought that the Mishnah here is with regards to a leather tabletop. And the Itzvan, and leather tabletop does not require trimming, either due to the fact that its edges are not seen, or because since it does not require trimming, this action should not be considered an act of kinyan. But Tanani brings an ayat. Other than the Mishnah in Canaan, however, there was no there's no work lacking of an item to be considered finished. So thought renders it susceptible to tumah. Except for a tabletop. Although further work is required to smooth out the edges, one's thoughts can render it susceptible to tumah because people do not care if the leather tabletop is on even edges. As with regard to this case of a tabletop, the Mishnah distinguishes between a balabayas and an abdon. Therefore, Rabbi Yosef's explanation is rejected. Other Rabbi says, "Hi milsik shibi Rabbi rather, Rabbi said this matter was difficult posed to Rabbi Yosef. For 22 years, and it was not resolved until the Rabbi Yosef sat at the head of the yeshiva. Parkin resolved in the following manner: Shine Hashem, a change in name of an item. In other words, representing a change in status. Kishine Maisadami is similar to a physical change brought about by an action. Shine Hashem, yeah. So now, Shine Maisa Maitam. What's the reason that a physical change through an action causes a thief to acquire the item? Because there, the stolen items were initially just wood, hashtakelo, and now they are vessels. Shine Hashem Nambi, so to Shine Hashem, Mikora Karle Mashko. Initially they were called a hide, but Hashla Bars, and now they are called a tabletop. Now the Gemara asks a question with regard to the change of name. Bahai Marish, what about the case of a beam, Shine Hashem, where there is a change of a name? Mikora Kshut of Hashar Tlala. Initially, when it was stolen, it was called a beam, and now it has a place. Now that it has been placed in the building, it's called a joist. A tlala, utanan. Yeah. Utanan, we learned in the Mishnah in Gitin. Al-Hamarish Agazal Shabano Babida Shnetel Damab. With regard to a stolen beam that a robber has built into a large building, the based on rule that the owner should receive its value in money rather than demand that the robber demolish the house and return the beam, because of the Ganas Hashavim, to encourage robbers to admit their crime and reimburse the owners of the item. Okay, so now let's a little bit further. Time at the Ganas Hashavim. The only reason that the robber does not have to return the beam itself is because of the Ganas Hashavim. But if it's not for the Ganas Hashavim, the beam would have to be returned to the owner as is, even notwithstanding the Shine Hashem. So it says, Morish may Allah. This is not a Shine Hashem because a beam retains its name even after it's inserted in the building. It's thought it's placed in the house. Elo HaMetaltlin and the Metaltlin, Elo Medishis. These are the beams. So we see this shows that the beams can retain its name even after it's been built in the house. Exactly. Okay.
You did the ceiling, so you call it the ceiling beam.
Yeah, we'll start from the Bezeda.
But I will be